Well, now on Who's Views, we celebrate 40 years of quite simply a British BBC children's classic. They certainly don't make them like this anymore. More's the pity. Devon Stanfield is Kay Harker, and our very own Patrick Troughton is Cole Hawkins in John Masefields' magical The Box of Delights.
Hello everybody, welcome to Who's Views. This is Reviews. How are you? Yes, the days are counting down towards Christmas now, isn't it? Here we are then. As you can see, I'm with Paul and with George and with Third Doctor Ian. And yes, we've got Lex Kane joining us today. Hello everybody. Listen, thank you so much everybody and everybody in the chat for joining me tonight for this 40 years. I can't quite believe I'm saying that actually. It's 40 years, everybody, of the Box of Delights, and I'm just like, oh my god, 40 years. Do you know when you hear that, when somebody says that to you, it was 40 years ago, it's just like somebody slapping you across the face with a wet fish, quite frankly, because this is a BBC children's classic, and over 40 years, guys, it hasn't gone anywhere at all. In fact, it's grown. So if you are a Box of Delight aficionado, I'm going to say this right now up front, I might be a fan, I might love this, but I'm not as diehard as you lot, and you will know far more than myself and the panel tonight will know about this beautiful drama. We're here to celebrate it. We're here to look at it. And I'm also very interested in thinking what Paul, in what George, and what Third Doctor Ian, and what Lex all have to say about it, because some of them have never seen it until this very moment. Isn't that right, guys?
Yes.
Where were you all 40 years ago, for heaven's sake?
Well, I was aware of this at the time, and I thought I really must watch this. I love Patrick Troughton, and I thought I like to watch other Doctors and different things, but I didn't see it at all in 1984. Yeah.
No.
I saw it when it was originally broadcast and not seen it since until catching up with it on the iPlayer the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And yeah, memories fade because, as I was saying just before the show started, I'd completely forgotten that Patricia Quinn featured in it.
Yeah, that must have been a nice surprise then when she got
got to the second episode where she'd be like, oh, Pat Quinn.
And how gorgeous is she in this? I'm sure she's going to crop up during the conversation of this show here. Third Doctor Ian and Lex, where were you 40 years ago then?
Ian first.
I was contemplating the approach of A-levels. The exam, the actual things, not the 2 years of it, the end of the 2 years of it. So, yeah, I remember it must have been Blue Peter. I mean, at 18, I wasn't watching Blue Peter, but I must have caught something on it because I remember a featurette on something like that. It must have been Blue Peter, where
it was look.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was the featuring the way he transitioned into the picture, into the painting with the donkey and disappeared off, and thinking that was groundbreaking at the time, because we know where Doctor Who was in 84 time and everything. And, it wasn't the worst it's been, but it was heading that way and until obviously now. And seeing all these then groundbreaking effects, thinking, oh, I wish, but it really made waves, didn't it?
Oh gosh! Did it just? Yeah.
Can I just say how strange in that still to see Janet Ellis cross-playing Patrick Troughton's Doctor while she interviews him.
Let's have a look at that again. Oh, see, bow ties were cool back in the 80s, kids. Yeah, they were actually, weren't they? They were in for a little while anyway. Yeah. What about you, then, Lex? Do you remember this from first time around, or is this brand new?
I didn't see this until COVID. Yeah. That was the first time I watched it.
Wow.
So the second time I watched it was Monday night and Tuesday night. Was the second viewing of it.
Wow, that's
Because
brilliant.
I would have been 4 years old when this was out.
Oh, shut up. Yes, so anyway. Get off. Yes, so yeah, here we are celebrating the 40 years of the Box of Delights. Can't quite believe it. There is a massive fan base for this as well. I'm delighted that some of you guys who join us all the time for Who's Views are also Box of Delights fans as well, including one of our regular artists, one of our contributors here, Stephen Braddock, who sent me this, his interpretation of a scene from the show and also from the book, which is the handover of the box from Cole Hawkins to Kay. So that's there, yeah. But yes, so this is first broadcast, the Box of Delights first broadcast on BBC One, the 21st of November to the 24th of December, 1984. And as you can see here, it was an awarded a Radio Times cover with that now iconic photograph. You can see this still to this very day around Comic Cons and stuff like this. It was based on the book by John Masefield, screenplay by Alan Seymour, directed by Rennie Wright, and produced by Paul Stone. Now, Paul Stone, of course, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but Paul Stone was associated with taking over the production of Doctor Who for a little while as well. And apparently, allegedly, I don't know if it's true, but he said no. No. And I quite like that if it's true, Paul.
Well, I think it was true. I think he was going to take over after they looked for a new producer after they were trying to get him a G&T, I believe, and he was actually considered for that. But looking at this, you can see he's got a good pedigree to do Doctor Who, certainly, and that's a good person to choose, but it's a shame he never did it, you know?
Paul Stone also did an awful lot of this era of children's television dramas and also BBC dramas. So he was a name. He was a good production name at the time. So it seemed quite obvious that they would at least approach Mr. Stone to say, are you going to take over Doctor Who? But I think it's quite funny, George, that he was turning around saying, absolutely not.
Yeah. Did he cast Patrick Troughton? I seem to remember hearing, because he absolutely loved him as Doctor Who, and that was the reason.
I think that was Rennie Wright. That was the director.
Was it Rennie Wright? So yeah, and I knew Patrick Troughton getting cast was pretty much a one-horse race because somebody absolutely loved him as Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was director Rennie Wright. But let's just go back to that because yes, it did get the cover for the Radio Times, as you can see there, and as I say, that is now an iconic cover. Absolutely stunning. It just sums up the whole thing, doesn't it? Really, and it did get the legendary John Craven's back pages, not just one, but two and a bit. And a magical, if you pardon the pun, what was it? Piece of work this is, you know, and it really did capture my imagination. I'm 14 in 1984, and I read this thing at the back here. I had also seen the trailer from BBC. They were pushing these trailers, and that was when, whoa, hello, this looks really good. I'm going to watch this. And of course, it had Patrick Troughton in it, didn't it? And that was the real hook. I thought, I'm going to watch Patrick.
Yeah. That was the reason I tuned in originally, because I remember the BBC heavily promoting starring Patrick Troughton.
Oh, it was. They really did. Yeah. You know, it was everywhere, wasn't it? But yeah, this is Rennie Wright back then. This is the director. Around about this time that he was directing this, and it was him that said, "Oh yes, he was the best Doctor Who for himself." So he wanted to capture that charm, that magic that Patrick has shown us the Doctor. This is him now, actually, with the star. This is Devin Stanfield. Wow. And this was taken this year on the station that is featured in the Box of Delights. This is taken from a Radio Times article. And this was for actually when they got together again this year to do a special documentary for this, the 40th anniversary edition of the Blu Ray, which is lovely to have. If you're a Box of Delights fans, and I know there are lots and lots of you out there, you've all got this, you're all watching this, you're devouring it. It's got a lovely making of a 40th anniversary celebration there. But yes, there we go. Let's see who's in the chat. We've got lots of people commenting already. So it's great to see you all. Thank you so much, everybody. Wow, there is a lot of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Who remembers the Box of Delights? How many of you watched it recently? Stephen says to us here with his artwork, I watched this over 2 days this week on Blu Ray, and it was such a lovely transfer. The picture has held up quite well, hasn't it? It's really quite good. Yes, thank you. Paul Stanford is with us. Oh, yes. Oh, Sheila B in the Devotions is saying, I didn't have a TV in 1984. Fair enough. Fair enough. And Pete is with us. Pete Harrington saying, this serial is part of my Christmas viewing every year since buying the VHS. Yeah, Same here. I have to watch it. It's one of those things. It's weird, isn't it? How we all go back to certain things. You know, and we were saying, or Ian, you were saying the other day in headlines, it got to a point when we were kids that there were repeats coming on all the time. It would be certain films and things every year, but now we do it ourselves. So I certainly do it. I've got my Christmas playlist.
Mine's of the Muppet Christmas Carol. My wife and I watch that every
yes.
Christmas. We're doing that,
Yes.
It's that thing that you can do now, isn't it? You can rekindle your own memories. You don't have to wait for it to be shown again. You've got control over it. It's almost, you know, you are the TV scheduler now. And you're not relying on the main channels to serve it up to you and be grateful for it. You know, you can do it all yourself instantaneously in a way. You know, you're not looking for the cassette anymore and hoping that it hasn't worn or damaged. I mean, the box set, the DVD, JT, has that must have had restoration and various bits and pieces done to it.
For the Blu Ray, it actually seems to be, because I've got the DVD as well from many years ago. It seems to be just a basic transfer.
Okay.
Over there, but it's done the natural upscaling from what I mean, it does look lovely.
Yeah,
it does look lovely. But I can tell you as well, Kirsty's with us. Hello, Kirsty. Nice to see you. Thank you for you and Garbage being in the chat as ever. John Mason is saying to us, is the Blue Peter thing on the Blu-ray? Yes, it is. You've got Blue Peter Take 2 and Pebble Mill clips on this. So that's quite a nice little collection there. It is there. So that's really good. And we've got here for Paul Stenterford. For some bizarre reason, I too didn't see the Box of Delights when it aired, but I thoroughly enjoyed it when I watched it recently. I love that. I'm going to say this, you know, because I was talking about this to a friend of mine the other day who went, "Oh, the Box of Delights, I love that. I hadn't seen it for ages." Said, "Oh, well, BBC 4 are currently repeating it at the weekends." So he's going to watch it and said, "Oh, yeah, it was brilliant. It was just what I remembered." But that's the magic of this thing, because it captures every generation that finds it. You know, there is something about that, you know, and some of these, similar to what Doctor Who does, there are people now who have their own kids who were, you know, they were kids back in '84. They now have their own children, and they've introduced them to the Box of Delights, and they're loving it, and they're coming into it as well. And I just think that's magical. So it'd be great to get your take on this, Who Views, as well as the panel, about if you have just seen this recently, or if you remember it, what has attracted you to it? What are your favorite moments about it? And we've got this from Paul as well. Paul Stenterford saying, the Box of Delights was the most expensive production for British TV at the time, with an estimated £1 million budget. You found that out as well, didn't you, Lex?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you work it out as if it was today?
Today, it from 2023 and 2024, it would have been about 3.3 million. It was made today.
Per episode?
Yes.
The whole production.
Right.
It would have to be a movie now, wouldn't it, in that case?
Yeah.
Well,
there was inklings about a movie years ago when the Lord of the Rings came through.
No,
yeah. And it was pulled down. It was pulled down straight away.
Leave it.
And one thing that struck me when I watched it was, why on earth didn't they shoot it on film rather than doing it on videotape? I mean, I understand a lot of the video effects were groundbreaking at the time. It was the first time they'd ever been seen. But you could achieve the same effects using film, using optical effects, optical printing, in camera trickery, all sorts of stuff. All the finer points which could have made the pictures so rich, with all the lighting and shadow you can get with film, the texture of film, the snowy scenes and all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, to me, just had that clinical flat look about it. Shoot it on film and it just would have looked so gorgeous. Plus, you would have had a full HD transfer 40 years down the line.
Again, but they never thought about anything like that.
Yeah.
Julianne is saying to us here, let's just hope the BBC don't decide to reimagine this classic. Oh, God, can you imagine?
No.
Starring Shooter Gatwa, coming soon.
The thing with this one with Troughton and Devon Stanfield is it doesn't need to be remade. Actually, this is perfect as it is even today, because we've got Dalek Eye also saying, I binge watched this during the stormy weather on Saturday. It was magic. That's what it is. That's what it's supposed to be, you know. And I'm glad you've discovered it, or you're watching it all. John Mason's with us saying, I'm watching the DVD episode 4 today. Ooh, you've got a couple left then. Fabulous. And Mark is saying, I did a Patrick Troughton double bill, Box of Delights, followed by Jason and the Argonauts, as you do.
It's funny you should say that, because he reminds me in this of his other appearance in that kind of movie in Sinbad the Tiger. You know, the kind of wizard he plays in that. It reminds me of that character in this. If that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
The one thing that I got echoes from was in the title sequence where Pat Troughton's face comes towards you. I just thought, oh, they're doing Pat Troughton's titles here.
Yeah. Well, it's funny,
it segues into the title.
I thought the box lid when it was flashing at the top of the TARDIS, but that's just me.
There are certain. Also, I think because it's a BBC production, there are certain things you can actually, look at. It's filmed a certain way. It's made a certain way. You can, and that was the magic of the BBC back then, wasn't it? Really, everything sort of had an in-house style.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, the BBC, I suppose, like the ITV, was basically a program factory, rather than doing individual one-off films. Everything was done, as you said, in a particular way to a particular budget to make the numbers stack up, to make the time factor work, and all that sort of thing. And even though this had, by BBC standards, a very large budget, it would have been produced in exactly the same way.
Oh, totally. With the same time scales and everything like that as well, I would imagine as well. Sam is saying to us that his Christmas viewing, the Christmas viewing is Muppets Christmas Carol, Boxy Delights and K9 and Company every Christmas.
Good choice. Yeah.
That's exactly the same as mine, to be honest. It's exactly the same. So that's great, Sam. Thank you so much on that one. And also, let's have a look here. We've just had a super chat through. See, it's actually... Oh, Paul Stanford first. The Boxy Delights blends live action, animation, matte paintings, and digital effects expertly for a charming, magical adventure. I know, isn't that fantastic? Hello to Adrian James that's watching us as well. This was the actual... magic of this thing, because it was a real case of it's just charming, and it's got all these little bits in it, and it's not afraid to experiment.
But I mean, all credit to it, even though it's originating video, they weren't digital effects, they were analog effects, because digital effects didn't exist in 1984.
Yeah. I know, and weren't we better off for it? Let's have a look at that in a sec. But first of all, let's just say thank you to Digby. Digby, thank you for your super chat. It's a charming escapist romp, and Pat being a time-traveling wizard, how appropriate. Yeah. I think I do see aspects of sort of older version of his Doctor in this. Not that I'm saying that he's emulating what he's done before. I don't think he is, but there are certain moments where I think that's how you would be if you were Doctor Who now.
And I think the theme it has as well is fantastic. It really gives a real eerie quality to it, which is almost akin to Doctor Who as well, isn't it?
I mean, you can close your eyes and listen to the incidental music, and it does sound like very mid-80s Doctor Who, doesn't it?
There's a reason for that, Ian.
Well, absolutely there is, but it just... You're there, right? You just close your eyes and you can...
Well, I expect you Sharon's yet to turn up round the corner.
Another thing I thought when I watched it that really would have lifted it even higher would be, why didn't they give this to Dudley Simpson?
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know.
Imagine what he'd have done with that.
Yeah,
I suppose because he wasn't around at that point.
Yeah, he and the BBC had parted company by then, hadn't they? Was he back in Australia by 1984?
Shame.
Yeah. Pete Harrington saying to us, Ian, they love the Vickers on the train going into a tunnel, and well, I won't give it away. That I remember seeing that particular scene you're talking about, Pete, back in '84, and that was quite startling at the time because I wasn't expecting that, and it's quite sharp. And you just go, what what was that? And that's where you start to get drawn into this whole fantastical world of things not being what you might assume they are. That, I just love that.
Sinister Vickers, though, who knew?
It still gave me a jump scare today. That scene. It was like a big quick jump scare, wasn't it? And it had a little bit like Narnia type feel to it.
The totally. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and considering that this story had been around for quite some time, the original one, I'm just going to look in my book here. It was first published in Great Britain in 1935. Now, I've got the edition that was first published in 1984 with abridgment by Patricia Crampton and using the BBC pictures here. Look, you see that?
Wow.
Yeah, look at that. Lovely. And there's the snow. Oh, that snow. I remember that. That snow, January 1984. I remember that. That's the year we got sent home from school because it was snowing.
And everyone was cheering at school. It was great, yeah.
everybody was so excited about it, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, and it was. And this film, the Box of Delights, was filmed in the Aberdeen area of Scotland.
Oh, right.
In that snowstorm. Therefore causing the BBC problems, which I'm sure the BBC were very aware of what would happen, various things. But it doesn't half look good. And there it is in posterity, that particular awful winter. There it is there, 40 years later, you can go, I remember that. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Looks magical, though.
It looks bloody cool.
It does look very cold.
It gives an organic feel to it as well.
Yeah.
No, I just love that because it just suits the story, because it's supposed to be set at Christmas, and then they've got it in there as well with Abner saying make it snow, real heavy snowstorms. Done.
I think the way the reality of the snow and all the rest of it counterpoints the fantasy elements really works in its favor, rather than having a studio bound set with Jabberlight and all that sort of stuff, which would have taken away from it. The fact that they managed to secure such a fantastic location, I think, really makes the reality and fantasy elements of the whole story come alive.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Actually, Graham's agreeing with you guys, saying the music in this is so Who. We have to mention that it is, of course, Roger Lim from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. He's putting the score together. Again, the score contributes to it, doesn't it? And that version of the theme tune, because I don't know if you know that, but the theme tune, of course, is a carol, which was originally used on the BBC radio broadcast originally back in the 30s or the 40s, whenever it was. So the producer, Paul Stone, wanted that back in it. He said, no, that's the theme. So they gave it to Roger, who came up with that little twinkly bit at the beginning. That's his contribution to this. I love these stories.
Very spooky, isn't it? Very, very spooky. Yeah.
It is.
Mysterious, yeah.
Yeah, becomes the box's theme. The box has a theme in this one, Murray Gold. So it is, Graham. There you go. New Who Hater is joining us. Hello, New Who Hater. Hope you're enjoying this show. I wouldn't change anything about the original production of the Box of Delights.
Only thing I'd say, and we talked about this previously, I wish Trout was in it more. I really do. But that's the story. That's fine. I understand that. But he's only in 2.5 episodes, isn't he? Which is such a shame.
Again,
he's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Again, my memory faded because my memory was telling me that Patrick Troughton was in it all 6 episodes, and then when I watched it again, I was surprised that actually he's actually only in, as you just said, Paul, 2 and a bit episodes, and it was Robert Stevens who was driving the narrative. Yeah. Whereas
the shame is when Robert Stevens gets to meet him towards the end. Yeah. It's a lovely playoff that I could have done more of that. It'd be very nice because they're great together. But
well, that's what happens in the book, folks. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It wasn't like something sinister was happening. Someone was ill or something. I don't know what happened, but
No. He gets scobbled, doesn't he? He gets, he gets kidnapped basically and taken away. And I love that as well, because when he is taken away, all they want, of course, is the box. And by this point, he's giving it onto Kay, and it's basically saying, right, where is it? So the panic goes on. It's all these lovely little bits here, I think, as well. For me at the time, it was very sort of engaging, and I was quite excited about it and wondering where it was all going. Sam's saying to us, one influence it had on me is thanks to the theme tune. The First Noel has always been one of my favourite Christmas carols. Doesn't it work well from the Radiophonic Workshop as well?
It does.
Yeah.
Can I ask in the chat if anyone knows this? We talked about this a while ago before we're going to review this. Patrick Troughton looks amazing in this. Is some of it makeup, or is it his own beard and hair, or has he had, as George mentioned before with Delgado, had any hair enhancements involved in this?
I know, because if that's makeup, it's a blooming good beard.
He looks superb. He looks absolutely superb. Yeah.
I get the feeling it was a makeup job. Because from memory, I seem to remember he was doing another TV series just before this went into production, and he wouldn't have had the time to grow out a big bushy beard like that. Moving from,
I just know he always used to say between jobs he'd grow a beard, and I wonder if that was the case. He maybe doing the Two of Us with Lyndhurst at that point.
I know the Two of Us was later, wasn't it?
Was it? I don't know. Right.
I think that was a bit
not much later.
I seem to remember that he went from one TV role straight into this, and I'm trying desperately to remember what it was. And I don't think he would have had the time to grow out such a big beard.
Yeah,
No,
well, it's a
no.
fantastic makeup then, because it's
Yeah.
looks like real
Really is.
hair, which is a real bonus, you know.
Yes, it probably was.
Well, yeah,
He looked
I mean,
he
he's
looked a
real
bit
hair,
like
well, yes.
he looked a bit like Gandalf the Grey a little bit with the beard.
Yeah, well, it goes with the whole thing about the
Yeah,
the magician appearance, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
this character, one of my favorite scenes is the reveal of who this character is and how old he is. And I love that sequence where he's, oh, it's the old man. You know, it's just a wonderful scene there. You know, where it just the pictures morph into the Patrick Troughton in the episode as he is then. The Box of Delights is based on the second book of the Kay Harker Adventures by John Masefields, says Paul Stenterford. The first book was The Midnight Folk. That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And this is the only one that's ever been dramatized, as far as I'm aware. Am I right in that, Paul Stenterford? Let me know if I am, but certainly by the BBC. Pete Harrington is saying to us all that Robert Stephens is wonderful. I didn't know him or his work when it first aired. Him and Troughton give it such gravitas.
Yeah, yeah.
Robert Stephens.
He's a real favourite actor, man. I love Robert Stephens. You need to find all his work. It's great. I can't think of a bad performance from the man. Superb, you know.
He's just brilliant in this, isn't he? No,
Yeah.
according to Patricia Quinn on the Blu Ray in the interview, he loved the Box of Delights from when he was a boy, when he heard it on the radio. And this is a great story. And when the BBC approached him, when Rennie Rye approached him to play this, he almost chewed his hand off to say yes. And Patricia Quinn's story is that he would have paid the BBC to play the role. And by God, he goes for it, doesn't he? He loves that role. He knows what he's got there. He knows he's the big baddie. And he really brings all that out. And he's not over the top panto type. He's charming with it, isn't he? He's sort of like, he is a lunatic in a sense.
He's very nasty as well at times, isn't he? He's quite.
That's how you play a villain, isn't it?
Yeah.
You keep it sort of subtle. And he's absolutely fantastic. Here's a picture of him here with Patricia Quinn. I just love the subtle ability that he has in this. And because he knows the source material, because he knows the character, it really comes off well, I think.
He's definitely not chewing the furniture or scenery, is he? He's really playing it.
Well, maybe occasionally.
Yeah, but it is that kind of like calculated bad guy, isn't it? Which is a lot more threatening. You know, you never saw Delgado, like we've mentioned, going over the top, do you? He really did his like that. And this guy's done exactly the same.
But Robert Stephens' expertise was he knew when to take it up a notch or two and when to bring it down a notch or two to make it a really nuanced performance.
Yeah.
That was the talented man. He was a talented man because I didn't know who he was at this point. 1984, I didn't know who he was. But then suddenly I'm noticing him, of course, in other things. And it's different. The performance is different in what things you see him. And I just... Wow, that's how they used to do it. That was an actor. You know, not somebody from Instagram or something like that. That was a talent. He'd gone to school, he'd learned his trade, he was developing his trade, and here he is, full-blown confident, loving a script. I just think that's wonderful to watch. You know, and he knows it's for the kids as well. You can tell he knows it's for the kids. I love that. So appreciated. What a guy. What a guy.
I like the scenes where he was pretend to be friends with the henchmen, but he was double-crossing them. He was waiting for the right moment to double-cross them.
They're all bad. All baddies are bad. Adrian James, hello to you, mate. I have the Box of Delights on DVD, and I would like to pick up the Blu-ray. Well, yes, absolutely. It's out there. So, yeah, it's available right now from BBC Studios, and it's done very well. So, if you go on, ask for it for Christmas, why don't you? Problem being is saying, I had that book, JT. I've treasured this. I remember reading this all those years ago. I can actually tell you when I bought it. 15th of February, 1985, I bought this book, right? And I haven't read it since. But looking back for this show, I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute. I might have to read this again at some point because it looks really cool. I want to say hello and welcome to Who's Views to Ariel. Nice to see you, Ariel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I really enjoyed Box of Delights. I saw it as part of the Wonderworks series broadcast on PBS, which also screened BBC Narnia. Now, that's the lineup.
Well, I suppose the success of this sort of paved the way for the BBC to do the Narnia serials and all the others.
Yeah, because they did three, didn't they? Three of the books, if I remember rightly.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Prince Caspian, did they do?
And the Silver Chair.
With Tom.
Yeah, that's Puddleglum.
Puddleglum, yeah.
They did Voyage of the Dawn Tread as well. They did
Oh,
4.
did they? Oh,
Yeah.
so right. They never get to finish. Why is it that anybody who takes on Narnia, Netflix, never gets to finish them? Let's see what happens from 2025 onwards, shall we? Oh, what was there? 7 of those? Come on.
Well, the BBC have got expertise in this kind of thing, haven't they? They did Alice in Wonderland before a couple of times, didn't they? With people in animal costumes and visual effects. I mean, Sarah Sutton was in one of them, wasn't she? And Liz played another.
Oh no, it was Lilliput that Liz was in, wasn't it? Gulliver's Travels.
Didn't she do an
No,
Alice?
she was in Alice as well, playing the.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I am thinking. Yeah.
Well, they had the expertise, didn't they?
Yes, sorry, but wrong tense.
It's a shame, really. I just don't think now we don't exist in an age where they could make this.
Yeah.
Certainly not like this anymore. They couldn't do it faithful to the book, and they wouldn't do it faithful to the book because we know they have their checklists now, don't they?
Oh,
so there'd be so much changed about it just for a supposed mythical audience that it would probably lose its intrinsic charm, which would be such a shame. So I think
it's a great shame. CGI as well, wouldn't it, George? It'd be all CGI.
It's a great shame that we've now got the technical facilities to do all sorts of stuff, but as you said, Ian, very little talent to actually bring it to life and deliver it.
It's a cruel world, isn't it? Show business. I hope you're watching. I want to answer this question from Stephen Braddock, who says, how is the panel going to deal with the ending, as there are many people in the chat who haven't seen it to the end yet? Well, spoiler alert, we will be talking about it because it's a big thing. The ending
and
of
it's
this
40 years old.
No, it's 40 years old. But we will be talking about it. If I remember, I'll do a spoiler alert thing for you there if you haven't seen it yet. But it's in the book as well, and it has been for many Box of Delights fans for all these years since the book was published. A talking point. So we're going to have to talk about the ending, Stephen. So yes, listen. This is not going to be a spoiler-free show.
I've got to be honest. I was shocked at the end when they were all shot by Servalan's guards.
That was most unexpected.
My bad.
I love the crossover. Yes, definitely.
Cross threads there, haven't I? Sorry.
I must have been watching a different version because I've never got over him falling off that radio telescope.
But he was swirling into the background. I thought it was the War Games at the end.
So all coming up for you, because this is the Box of Delights. It's our review show here, just appreciating this. Some of the panel have not seen it before, so it's interesting to hear what they say. I've been watching this nigh on for 40 years, since it was first broadcast on BBC One all those years ago, as 6 30-minute episodes. And I have to say as well, because it stopped on what was it? It was stopped on Christmas Eve. I remember that Christmas Eve specifically because of the Box Delights, and it was just so magical and warm and charming, and it was so cold outside. And I remember the Christmas lights and the colours and all this sort of. That's probably why I have to watch it every Christmas now as well. It's on the list because it just takes me right back to that particular Christmas Eve. Do you know? And when you can smell the mince pies and stuff going, I remember that all. Just huge memory there.
You can smell the snow in the air. Yeah.
Well, you could, because I think am I right in saying that Scotland did have a white Christmas that year? I think that was the start of the big storm. Yeah. Paul Richards, I love the old world charm that it has. That was the BBC back then. It really was, and it is a charm, isn't it, Paul Richards? It really is a sort of quality. A lovely presentation here. They care about what they're doing. And Ariel's back with us to say, frustratingly, we did not have a VCR in 1984, so I had to wait till Box of Delights was broadcast on Nickelodeon, which I had taped, which had about a third cut out. What? No.
Oh, wow.
So I just read that as bod for a minute. I thought that's a different style, isn't it? Yeah.
Strawberry. Gosh, so where in the world are you, Ariel? Are you in the States then, I take it? I still can't get over the fact that it would have been broadcast outside the UK, this little thing as well. Yeah. It's gone everywhere, isn't it? And it's found a huge audience. Fantastic. The BBC, says John Mason, used to do period stuff so well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things where they've lost that now, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they won't get it back. They've gone too far down a certain road. It's gone for good.
Was this kind of part of the classic serial kind of run? No,
No.
separate. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
this was shown on Children's BBC as part of
Right.
Children's BBC in the week. It wasn't Sundays; it was in the week.
Right,
It was,
right.
I think, it was a Thursday. I
Right.
can't remember. You have to look up when the 21st of November 1984 was, but it was part of that, and it was part of the thing after Newsround.
Right.
And it did get an awful lot of publicity, also in the evenings, because the BBC actually were thinking in those days, and they suddenly realised that the Box of Delights already had a built-in fan base from the kids that had listened to it back when they were youngsters on the BBC radio. And apparently, yes, a lot of the adults did come and watch this when they could, you know. So I just love this. This is the thing about the Box of Delights and the way the BBC have done this here. The casting, the direction, the whole production, it's open to all ages now. Whereas nowadays we'd be told it's not for you. That's not for you. This is for this, as Doctor Who is. It's not for you.
Yeah.
But this is an example of anybody could have watched this. And I think that's why they got really good broadcast figures on Christmas Eve, because people sat down and watched the last episode because they were at home, maybe, not at work. Yeah. Just wonderful. Do you know what I mean?
You'd be told to go out and touch snow now, wouldn't you?
What I like
There's
about
still
this
time for that, Ian.
Graham saying says, what I like about this is it just doesn't date. I'm pretty sure most kids of today would still feel it enchanting. It just such has an Christmassy atmosphere and lovely characters. Totally agree with that. And also, it's a classic thing, isn't it? It's a classic thing about, this is about a group of kids with a load of adult baddies.
Yeah,
you get that Enid Blyton flavor coming through this, don't you? Really, and I love that. And as kids love that as well. When the kids are getting involved with stopping the baddies, of course they're going to love it.
One bit I particularly liked was the bit on the boat that on Kay's boat, and they strike themselves to hide from them. That was lovely. I like that. It's nice.
It was done really well for the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Although when it was going along on its own, it looked like something like Hammy Hamster a little bit, but that was just me.
I mean, they go over the waterfall or the rapids, and yet they step off the boat and they're all bone dry.
Oh, he's being unforgiving here, George.
It's because they're so little, George. The water doesn't hold on to them. That's what it is.
Didn't break the surface tension.
Do you remember Plant the Giants?
I just think, it's magical because I've got this picture here as well. Everything's done on blue screen to a point.
Oh, wow.
Of course, from the old days. This is how they would have done it. So everything's done here. And they just embellish it that little bit here. And yet, I look at this today and I think this can be forgiven. And I do know from there is actually, everybody, in case you don't know, there is a Box of Delights Appreciation Society. So if any of the members of the Box of Delights Appreciation Society find this show, hello, nice to see you. What a show. What a show you are huge fans of. We love it. Or I certainly love it. But I think the kids today would forgive that. And that ties in with what I'm always saying about the fact that give the kids a good story, give them some excitement, give them something that they can follow. They'll buy into it. And certainly there are lots and lots of children on the Box of Delights Appreciation Society Facebook page that are loving it and loving it and loving it. This thing's going to go on forever. And Pat Troughton's in it. How wonderful is that? He's going to live forever, that man. Not just through Doctor Who, but through this.
I think at that era as well, they had a really good. I mean, I know Troughton was going from basically show to show at that point. He was definitely on a career high. But I mean, for us, we'd seen him in Five Faces, hadn't we? Then we'd seen him in the Five Doctors.
Five Doctors.
And he was about to come in the Two Doctors, or not that long from the Two Doctors. And he was very, very relevant to us again. So then he was in this, in effectively, maybe not on the day, but a Doctor Who-ish time slot. And he's back again in something else that is just gonna, like you say, live forever. It's just magic of Troughton, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. And his ability and his magical. I mean, you look at his character. If you look at what he's doing here, it is magical. He's playing this wonderful wizard. He knows what he's doing here, and it's follow that basically. You know, I mean, this is one of the things that a lot of theatres in the UK do at this time of year when they're not. Oh, we'll have a break from the panto. Let's do the Box of Delights. Wow, that's a challenge.
Well, there's nothing more wonderful in a theatre when they do snow. That's great, really nice.
Yeah. This is another favourite moment. That Problem Being, who's joined us, is saying when Troughton goes off into the painting, it was so good. Now you mentioned this before, Ian, didn't you?
Yeah.
Again, it's magic and it works brilliantly, doesn't it? Let's set the scene. Picture it. They're all in this house and they're having a lovely time. And Cole Hawkins is at this point, he's a Punch and Judy man. That's his trade as he travels around time and space, basically. He's a Punch and Judy man. So the kids have just had a Punch and Judy show. And the wolves are running. Now, the wolves are the baddies. The wolves are the ones that are after him. They want the box. So the whole thing about this is the wolves are running. It means that they're out there. They're looking. So he's trapped in the house. And I just love it when he realizes the only way he can get out of the house is through a painting. And he uses the box to do it. And it's done so beautifully, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice.
You could almost say that somebody pinched it for a certain 50th with the Zygons in a picture, just saying.
You
But
might
this
think
is-
that, but we couldn't
Yeah.
possibly comment.
But you're probably right, yeah.
But this scene is fantastic. It's absolute standout. It's for the era and everything. It's wonderful. Really is.
So what happens for those of you who haven't seen this yet, or I'll just get into this. Again, I told you we were going to be talking about spoilers. This is how he escapes the house. The painting comes out of the picture. The donkey who's painted into it, I love a donkey, but the donkey that's painted becomes real. You can just see him there. And so him and Barney Dog leave via the Alps. And I just think it's absolute genius. It's in the
really
book.
is.
It's just brilliant. And I love the way they do it. Apparently, they had a little bit of it because, of course, they're all in, not blue, but off blue at that point. The set, the guy leading the donkey, even the rope, George, that's taking the donkey towards Pat. And they had to line it up, of course, properly so that the donkey doesn't fall off the cliff.
Yeah. I'm guessing it all would have been achieved with Scene Sync, which was sort of like the motion control, which made sure everything stayed in perspective on chroma key and CSO.
To an extent, it's also a lot of directors and stagehands going. You can sort of see it on here.
I think that the painting's very Bob Ross, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
yeah,
that's a lovely point, isn't it? I wonder where it is today, because that would be worth something now, wouldn't it?
He did the similar effect in the opening to Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Same effect.
Oh, of course, yeah, because that's how they get into that story and out of the story, don't they?
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that for the C.S. Lewis, but lots of appreciation for this. I love the surrealist imagery in this. It's beautiful, says Paul. Certainly that is. I mean, you would expect that sort of thing in a Pet Shop Boys video, wouldn't you?
Or at the very least, but
But it is when you think about it. What year was Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
And it's a bit later. It was
88, 89.
Yeah, and that was obviously a much bigger budget. But that's where you really sort of like see live action and animation, and it's certainly in the 80s, but preceded by quite a few years on a TV budget by this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? When you think about it, that's really good point.
Well, we said this many times before. It's all about ingenuity, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've got lots of you in the chat with us tonight. Thank you for joining us for this. Lots of comments coming through as well. And thank you to Mark Milford for your super chat here, saying the Box of Delights, Doctor Who and Blake 7 shaped your generation's values on life. It's no coincidence that the generation raised on these stories now stands against the current tide of insanity. Well, yeah, I'd like to think so. There were morals through all these shows, weren't there? But they were decent. They weren't preaching ones. Like you didn't get the He-Man moral, for example, at the end of each He-Man show, which was the American way of doing things. In ours, it was much more subtle, and it was always about good versus bad and right from wrong and all this sort of stuff. And you knew this. And the Box of Delight, as I say, so good because again, it's a load of kids. A load of kids in here taking the lead with this. Even the lead adult, Caroline Louisa, goes missing. She gets nabbed by the baddies.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, though, isn't it? All the adults suddenly get nabbed.
One of my favourite who's not really directly a baddie, but I love him in this, is James Grout as the inspector. He is brilliant in this. Really lovely. I love him in this.
Yeah,
Great
he
actor.
he was a great actor. Thank you again, Mark Milford, for that. He was a great actor, but he was also one of those faces you knew.
Yeah,
You know,
and you weren't sure if he was
well.
good or bad, or just a little bit confused. You know what I mean? It's got interesting ambiguity about his performance. It's lovely.
That's the guy from Morse, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Lots of you praising the scenes in the show as well. Lots of favourite scenes coming through. Thank you for all that. Really great. Yeah. Just trying to find some of the chats here for you as well. Oh, Paul Stanford saying to us, I love Rat eating his green cheese in episode 1.
Yeah.
He'd have had a field day if he looked in my fridge. Oh, really?
I have to say, I said it before, I think the actors playing animals and animal costumes, you can see they're still human a little bit. I found that really, really disturbing, because that's quite disturbing makeup. Maybe had a sheltered life, but I found it very creepy, I have to say.
Looks a bit like the Wolfman.
A little bit, yeah.
I think it suits this context of this story. I don't think it could go into anything else, really.
Yeah.
But I think for Box of Delights, because the whole thing about the Box of Delights is it's supposed to be fantastical, isn't it? You don't know quite what's going on, what's real, what's not real. That all comes out towards the end of it as well. You know, I love all that sort of stuff. I mean, when you're going to get something like Herne the Hunter turning up, and this is what, you know, you guys were mentioning a little bit earlier, we've got to put praise to this. I remember at the time when this happened, this particular scene, spoilers coming up, he opens the box, a bright light comes out of it, and then suddenly we go into animation. Mm-hmm. I actually think that's a stroke of genius, because there was no way back then they could have done those scenes. There's no way. I mean, you couldn't have had him turning into a deer and wearing a costume. It would have just looked ridiculous. So to take him into an animated world, I think it actually shows just how good the Box of Delights is. Do you know what I mean? Because look at this. I mean, there's Herne the Hunter about to turn into a deer here. It's got elements of the room that Kay happens to be in at this particular point. And I at the time, guys, it just blew me away. I thought, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
But as you said, I won't say too much about it, but as you said, it fits with the logic of the denouement, shall we say, on the train at the end. You know, so it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Really, for the effects to be the way they are, to be not naturalistic as such, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It also helps to do some exposition here, doesn't it? Really, the wolves are running. Here they are. Look, did you see them there? And I remember being quite pleased with myself, because I thought, oh yes, I did. I saw that. I mean, that's the whole point. They're trying to get the kids to buy into it at the time. The viewer, you know, as an adult, you're probably looking at this saying it's pretty obvious. But as a kid, you had to be told, did you spot that? Did you spot
There's
that?
a very, like you were saying earlier, JT, the panto element. It's like, it's behind you kind of thing. It's a bit like that, you know, which is lovely.
Love that.
You know, yeah.
I love that bit. George, what did you think of the animation in this?
I thought it worked very well. I was reminded of the animation style, I don't know if it was coincidental or deliberate, of the snowman, which I think was around the same time.
Yeah.
So if the two were concurrent, I could see why it would find favor in the public's eyes, because, you know, the snowman, as we know, was just huge. So to do something in a similar style, and as you said, you know, such an inventive way to get around what otherwise wouldn't have been achievable, even on, you know, what for the BBC at the time was a huge budget with the resources that they had, was very, very good, and it stands up very well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it's one of my favorite scenes, actually, because today they would just turn them all via CGI, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
definitely.
But there's several scenes here that show the difference of the box as well. This being the first one. The other is when Kay does what he shouldn't do and goes back in the past. And I like the fact that that's all line drawings, and it's like one of those theatres you got on Blue Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. Pete Harrington's also saying things like love the fire scene with Kay and Cole with the Phoenix. There's a few of you actually in the chat talking about the Phoenix. That reminded me at the time of another classic I loved back in the 70s called the Phoenix and the Carpet.
Yeah,
another BBC classic. And I thought, they've lifted that. At the time in '84, I thought they've taken that because it looks like the same thing. It wasn't. It was done for this, and again done in animation.
Still works today, that scene.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
There's one bit that particularly stood out for me, which I really enjoyed, and I'm saying the sort of affection rather than being not constructive here. There's a bit where he flies on the horse, and the wolves are chasing him and rise at the fort, and they're fighting all the wolves off. And this really made me laugh really loudly, so I'll have to mention this. And they're fighting the wolves, him and the soldiers, and they throw a stuffed wolf at them, which really made me laugh. So that was hilarious. I'm sorry.
You know, I hope it was a stuffed wolf and not a dog. Not one of the real.
There might have been a disclaimer: no wolves were hurt, and they were making this production back. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, it was the 80s.
Yeah. But
nobody cared. Well, get it in there. It was the wrong way round.
He was brutal with his sword, wasn't he? He was like straight down.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, right, you aren't messing around there.
I think the wolf bounced off them at one point.
Yeah, I love that scene though. I think it's absolutely superb.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the chat loving this as well. So thank you. It's great to see you rather. It's great to see me as well, but it's great to see you all in the chat. Keep it coming. Dalek I is asking you, has anyone tried posset? I don't think I could. I have to say, after this show, I did, and it was vile.
Yeah. I thought there was alcohol in it, but I think it's different versions of possets, isn't there? Because I remember that line
there
in
is alcohol in
vegetation.
it. Yeah, there is alcohol in it, but obviously that was taken out for kids, and it was just sort of like a milky, eggy. Bleh.
But it would be medicinal for kids, like having a hot toddy sort of thing, you know.
It was horrible. I don't know. Robin Calvert's with this guy saying, I see parallels between Cole Hawlings and the Doctor. Cole's the punch and duty man, something of a figure of fun, masking his intelligence and wizardry, and the box can whisk you off like the TARDIS.
Takes you straight into Fraser Hines's slightly Doctor Who-ish song "Punch and Judy Man," doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Actually,
let's move on from that.
Yes, let's.
Well, anorak firmly in place. One Doctor Who connection I must research was when the Roman Centurions appeared.
Yes.
All I could think of was, I wonder if they're the same costumes that were used in the War Games.
Apparently not. Apparently they were designed specifically for the Box of Delights, according to the documentary, because she wanted something that children thought. Well, actually, they're supposed to be Greek. They're supposed to be Greek. They're supposed to be Trojans, and she wanted something that she thought that the children watching would think of, and it worked by goodness, you know, because at the time you thought, oh yeah, you know what this is. But Paul Stensford saying to us, the Box of Delights is a great cast, including Nick Berry as the pirate rat. What's not to like? Yeah, fair enough. And talking of those there, George, Graham's with us saying those Trojans reminded me of the few existing picks we've got from the myth makers.
Yeah.
Really? they just crept in. Again, it shows you the difference here, because this is when Kay goes back into the past. Look at these. Very 80s, and yet suits the show.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I think I remember that Glynis Barbara thing called Jane.
Yeah,
it reminds me of that kind of animation a little bit, that kind of mixture of sort of comic book and live action. Yeah.
I thought it was magical, this thing. Yeah. Apparently the director wanted something that wasn't factual. He wanted something that was, you know, a fantasy. So that's why the sea sparkles blue when he gets to the island. You know. But I have to say to you, I love their accents, because they're all West Country and all from Yorkshire. And that was the actors. The actors wanted to do something to say, well, how can we make it more interesting for us? And did you know that one of them is Julian Sands?
Yes, I saw that in the titles. Yeah, how sad. Yeah.
There he is, Julian Sands, who we lost a few years ago now, a couple of years ago. Terrible circumstances. But he was a huge Box of Delights fan, and according to the story, he contacted the director and said, "I hear you're doing the Box of Delights. Can I have a part?" And the director said, "Oh, sorry, no, Julian, no." And at this point, he just had his big hit, so he was on the way. You know, everybody knew who he was. And he said, "No, everything's cast. All the contracts are signed. Can't get rid of anybody. There's nothing there." And he said, "What? Nothing?" And Rennie Rice said, "Well, there's this extra little bit you can do." "I'll have it," he says. Yeah, and there he is. Isn't that lovely? Just so you can say he's in the Box of Delights, and you don't see his face or nothing because he's in the big helmet thing there. But I think that's a lovely story. Lots of lovely stories around this one as well.
First time I saw him was in Stargate SG-1, Season 9 and Season 10 as a villain.
Really? I didn't know
he played the villain, the Ori. He was really good in that.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was a lovely actor. He really was. But there he is again, 40 years ago in the Box of Delights for about 2 seconds with a very strange accent.
He hit the big time with A Room with a View, didn't he? That was his breakout film.
Yeah.
So this was after that. So this is why people have really made the connection with him and knew who he was. So, oh, bless him. I think that's a lovely thing to do. Just as a side, I found this while I was doing some getting some pictures for this show as well, and I quite like this. This is from behind the scenes. This is Pat getting his lunch.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
Isn't that lovely? So this is from the Box of Delights Archives website. So thank you guys for that.
Wow.
Filming Patrick Troughton for episode 6 at the Black Country Museum in Dudley in West Midlands.
I think did not have that anorak at Longley. I recognise that coat from somewhere. Yeah.
Now, you know, strangely, I was at the Living Museum at Dudley very recently, and I was looking around. It's just been used for another upcoming production. I was looking around, and when I watched the episodes on iPlayer over the last couple of days, I was looking, going, "That's very familiar. Where is that?" And of course, it's Dudley. I mean, the only thing about Patrick Troughton being on location there, particularly when they were up in Aberdeen, I mean, by this time, Pat Troughton knew he had a serious heart condition. So I hope they kept him wrapped up and nice and warm up in Aberdeen when they were doing all the sequences up there. And looked after his health.
As he's wading through snow, chest deep.
Yes. Getting cobbled. Yeah.
I mean,
it's the BBC.
Yeah.
I mean, one nice touch actually was the scenes in the snow with Patrick Troughton. His hair and his beard went snowy as well to match the snow.
Because he's a wizard. I love that. Oh gosh, lots of comments for you. Keep them coming. We'll try and keep up with you. I mean, were there any standout scenes for you guys as well coming to this all these years on? Was there anything that you went, oh, hang on a minute, that's really cool?
The Cole and his friend when they walking in the snow was breathtaking with the skyline and the trees. And before that scene, I really liked the scene where they're in the larder eating the sausage rolls and the food. Early in the morning.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Breakfast before breakfast. That's a typical lad thing to do, boy thing to do, though, isn't it, really? They're off on an adventure. They're going to have some breakfast before they get back for breakfast. I love that. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. But the scenes do look lovely, though. Like, guys, those snow scenes of that particular winter, beautiful. How lucky were they in a way? You know?
One of the scenes I liked, it was an indoors scene, but I really liked it was, again, getting back to James Grout. The bit on the phone where he's trying to convince Kay that he's speaking to Patrick Troughton. That's a lovely little scene. And he doesn't give him the phone and all that kind of stuff. I'll give it, and he hands it, takes it back. All that. That's a lovely little scene. And James Grout is beautiful as this kind of slightly dotty inspector, slightly sinister inspector. Really lovely.
Any you guys, anything?
I would watch it and in the credits as well for the production staff and everything, because there's a lot of names you recognise. But I'd watch it all, and sad as I am, looking for Doctor Who actors and things like that, and there's a few that jump out at you. One that I didn't expect, and this was before he was in Doctor Who, was the guy in that was the brass head. He was Quillam in Vengeance of Varus.
Yeah.
As I hadn't realised, so that was an extra one that I hadn't picked up before. So I was quite chuffed with that. But yeah, it's like a who's who, isn't it? Literally just ticking off the names.
Yes, it really is. You got
that scene where Robert Stevens is trying to get all the demons together to get to do the snows. That's a lovely scene, and he turns the head upside down. All that. That's really well done visually. Really nice.
That's an incredible scene, that as well. It's actually quite spooky as well, isn't it? Just before we get to Tim Kins is with us. So it's a brief comment. He says, "I'm not well. Oh, well, get well soon. Get well soon, mate. Hope
get well soon."
Right.
Yeah.
This show was profoundly magical to me. A gentle world of ancient Britain and genuine nightmare. Magical and a glimpse into deep time in a way nothing else has done." What a lovely comment.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that, Tim Kins. And yeah, as we say, get well soon. That whole scene, though, I've got this still from it here. It just shows you the quality of what they were doing at the time. This is the set. This is a proper BBC set, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. You can recognize the skills that have gone into this. And then this wee thingy that keeps cropping up, these wee monkey devil things. And Head's just, I love the bronze head because he's just there going, "You're not getting it right, love." Yeah.
It looks like the creature from Wizard of Oz.
A little bit, yeah.
again, like Ian, always finding Doctor Who connections. I thought this was sort of, in a way, a sort of reenactment of the Demons.
I was just thinking Box as well. Yeah.
Oh,
But
I see what you mean.
that whole theme is wonderful, though, isn't it? You know, block up the points on the railway. They'll come by road. Block the roads. They'll come by air. And you can just see them getting more and more irritated.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say there, the bronze head that Ian was talking about there, it's Nicholas Chagrin, if you don't know.
Yeah.
There you go. Nicholas Chagrin was there. But that whole scene, again, going to on the initial broadcast, I remember this being standout as a really sort of, there's a bit of scariness in this now. This is getting serious, because it had been quite sort of, not famous five-ish, but you know, that sort of whole sort of, hey, this is going to be and you're building up to that thing. Okay, how's he going to do this? And why are they all being nabbed? And why is the girl gone missing and no one cares? And then there's all this stuff, and you're loving all that. And as kids, we really don't mind ourselves because she can take care of herself. Yeah, no. And as kids in those days, we were allowed to sort of get into trouble, try and get at things. Oh yeah, she'll turn up. But this bit, I just thought, hang on, there's creatures in this now. He's conjuring up all these creatures from his magic, and this is scary stuff now. I love it.
And Robert Stevens' frustration in this is really nice as well. Like, you can tell he's starting to lose it a bit at this point, isn't he? Which is nice.
Well, you know why?
Yeah.
You know why? Because he's had that hint.
Yeah.
Very similar to what we got in Doctor Who years later. He will knock 4 times. Yeah. Here he has the message, it'll be under your hand. That's bound to drive anyone mad, isn't it? I love all that sort of stuff because only we know that happens.
Yeah.
The SOS, its best there, everybody. Look at that. Not just under your hand, but quite near your earlobe. You know, there's the box there, dear.
Because that bit just prior to this, when he's counting all the jewels is lovely as well, like a Panto villain. It's really nice.
And loving it again, isn't he?
Yeah.
He loves that. I just think that's brilliant as well. It's also when Patricia Quinn comes along later on as well. She's
well, I love that bit when she shouts to him, "Don't try to diddle me," as she flies past in the car. You know, that was brilliant.
I just love the way she reacts to the box, though. Why is that?
Yeah.
She's just brilliant. Those two together, though, on screen. It's wonderful, isn't it? Really, just magical scenes. I love it. But yeah, that's that whole scene. I think Rennie Rye really was the right person to direct this because everybody's tight in this, and he understands this. I know that he said on the documentaries and stuff there were elements where he thought, "How are we going to do this?" But that's where creativity really comes in.
Yeah.
So he turns to animation. Genius.
I think the idea of a flying car, a car that turns into a plane, is very James Bond, isn't it? It's lovely.
Very Transformers as well.
Yeah, exactly.
The original cartoon. Yeah.
Before Transformers.
Yeah.
84 was the cartoon, I think.
Yeah.
Same time.
But and designed, by the way, by Tony Harding.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another name famous for Doctor Who, you know. And they're all saying, they wanted, they knew where they were going with this because of the experience on Doctor Who. Roger Lynn said the same thing. He said, I've been doing Doctor Who, so I sort of knew where I was going when it came to fantasy. And see, good for you lot.
It's a heck of a role, really.
Yeah.
A clear example of how BBC achieved things at the time was when the plane turns back into the car. All you got to give a hint of it was a stagehand pulling a little bit of the tip of a plane underneath the car as the camera tracks past.
Yeah. The bit that got me is how did the plane car get into the tunnel? That I didn't understand that bit.
Yeah. Again, lots of you in the chat with the comment. Keep your comments coming, everybody. We will get to you. Lots of people saying, is it on DVD and Blu-ray? Yeah, the Blu-ray is here. It's available now in the UK. You'll have to check if you're outside the UK for it, but the Box of Delight's 40th anniversary edition, I do recommend it. It's lovely. It's absolutely fantastic. And yes, it does have another Doctor Who connection because it's done, the special documentary is done by the same people that tend to do a lot of the Doctor Who season box sets. That's all I'm saying.
So it's bound to be good. Yeah.
It is. It's a joy to watch. It is because they go and revisit everybody. You know, they reunite, as we saw at the top there. I'll just get that picture lined up for you again. They reunite these two. This is Rennie Rye, the director, as he is today, with Devon Stanfield, who plays Kay Harker, as he is today. And that is his Box of Delights. Somebody on the last day of filming gave it to him, gave him one of the boxes, and he's
wow.
treasured it all these years. So there it is, one of the actual props. It'll be worth a fortune.
Well, luckily the character didn't lose it then, because he's very careless with the box in the episodes, wasn't he?
You have to have that bit of tension in where he loses the box at one point, you know. I love the fact that he remains very British. I'm not going to worry about that right now, even though I'm that big. It'll all be fine. I would have been like, what's going on? What do I do
it was
now?
the bit in the box, the trunk was very Planet of Fire, wasn't it? With the master of thing.
I want to talk about, we can't really talk about the box of light without talking about the lead. This is Devon Stanfield. I just think he's brilliant. I mean, this is a lad that had done some dramas. He was known for a couple of things before this, and then he was lucky enough to get this particular part as well. Beat quite a number of young actors to the role. I think he pulls it off beautifully for such a young actor. It's really great. And I quite like the fact that he's just so very sort of matter of fact. The way that he's delivering lines, quite natural, if you know what I mean. You know, for a young actor, I mean, look at him there, bless him. Ooh, you just want to get his little cheeks and go, jilly, willy, willy, willy. But well, that's just me.
That's not allowed. The how old is he meant to be? Is he meant to be 12?
11 or 12 years old.
12,
Yeah, around about that. But again, it's just the fact that they just get on with it. I mean, it's all set in the 30s, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's what we in the 80s expected the 30s kids to be, because we've grown up on the Secret Seven and we've grown up on the Enid Blyton stuff, you know, the Famous Five and everything. So this is just coming along, and they had adventures all the time, those kids. What went wrong? What was going on there?
Yeah, play outside. It's much more exciting. Yeah.
I just think he's great, though, and I think he carries the show. I think he does an amazing job. This guy. I think he's brilliant.
I think they're not bad as a group of child actors. That I can't think of anyone that's particularly annoying, which can be a bit of a distraction with child actors. But they're not that bad. They're interesting to watch. You know.
Yeah, that's the yardstick I normally use with child actors, I have to admit. And, you know, the fact that he acquits himself against Robert Stevens, Patrick Troughton, Patricia Quinn, all of those is all credit to him.
Yeah.
There's not a Romulus and Remus amongst them. Can I say that now? But
or a Matthew Waterhouse.
He was very engaging straight away as a character.
Yeah.
The kid. Straight away. You gelled with him straight away. But I like the bit where he sees the little girl who's trigger happy with, she likes guns. And he's a little bit like that with her first. And
she's a bit of a tomboy, which is nice to see as well. Yeah.
But there you've got filmed, set in the 1930s, filmed in the early 1980s. And you've got this strong, all right, trigger happy, but you've got this strong-willed female character. But apparently they've only just had those in the last year or two. You know, they never used to exist before, which just shows how ridiculous the current mindset is, isn't it? They've always been there.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because when you look at some of the Box of Delights from 40 years ago, similar to when we look at Doctor Who's from all those years ago, the creativity is honest. It's there to tell the story, to be as faithful to the adaptation as they can be with the resources they have at the time. That's why I'm saying, you know, Box of Delights is genius, because they look at this and think, how are we going to do this from the book? How are we going to do? Oh, we'll use animation. Oh, we can do this, and they make it work. You know, whereas today it would be too much about, well, what messages can we get into this?
Yeah.
And
it would have been so easy for them to cut certain scenes out because it was too difficult, but they just went for it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, that's credit to them, really.
The dungeon set was amazing with the dungeons.
Oh, the dungeons, yes.
He spent time on them
to the public.
Yeah.
They've turned it into a coffee area. Stuff like this, and they do theatre productions in it all there. Can you imagine that in London, those dungeons? Back then, of course, they weren't open to the public, and they were probably falling down and dangerous. But now it's all modern and lit, and bar stools and stuff like that. Might have to go next time and have a look at it all. If Abner had not relied on Pounce's opinion of Kay, he may well have triumphed, says Eric. This is the point, isn't it? Because Abner dismisses the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously didn't read any Enid Blyton. because you don't do that.
There's a Scooby-Doo line that comes to mind at this point, isn't there? But
yeah. Third Doctor Ian, you've got to leave us now, haven't you?
Yes, I'm afraid I've got to go and do taxi duty. I do apologise, but
It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much.
And all the people that are die-hard Box of Delights aficionados, then I salute you. This is absolute genius.
Can you send us a score before we forget towards the end?
This is timeless. It's got to be a 10.
Thanks for that, Third Doctor. We'll see you again very soon. Have a great rest of the night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
See you soon. Bye.
Take care.
The set of Abner's Inner Sanctum from episode 6 reminds me of Omega's Singularity Chamber from the Three Doctors, says Paul Stanford. Does it really? I don't see that.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Did he have a kettle on the boil as well?
Bit more decorative, isn't it?
That's lovely. James Grout is brilliant. I know.
Yeah,
Totally. Said Pete Harrington. It's great that you've all got all these memories and you're coming along. Timkins is saying, come along, Barney Dog. Patrick Troughton wandering into a painting was enchantment, pure and simple. It wasn't the music that Roger gives it as well. Roger, he's so good with his music on this, doesn't it? It really, really is. For those of you asking in here, know that the effects have not been updated in the Box of Delights, and they shouldn't be, because they work even today, I think. So no new digital effects at all. There's no new extra edition, no new edited edition, nothing like that. It's as far as I can tell, it's as it was back in '84. Dalek Eye is saying to us, the police officer was very creepy. He seemed more concerned about showing the boys his rabbits.
I did like at the end though when he did a kind of Private Fraser. It was like, I never doubted you for a moment. Almost that was at the end,
There's lots of comments from you all as well. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us for this our review and appreciation of the Box of Delights. It's celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. It's currently being repeated on BBC 4, and you can get the Blu Ray edition, as I keep saying, through the show as well to celebrate the 40th anniversary. Fabulous. Pete Harrington also saying to us, wonderful, let it snow throughout the land, it's magical. Michael Q is in the wrong one. He's saying, fly, my beauties, fly. Because that monkey, it is very reminiscent of that. Hello to Russ Morgan as well. Nice to see you. And Stephen Braddock's saying, I love that all the people that Abner treats so badly all turn on him at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming, guys, back in '84. Did you, as new people to the show, did you see that coming?
No, I'm surprised that they kind of turned on him, but it happens a lot, doesn't it? These kind of things that the baddie is going to turn on them, but they get there before him sometimes. That's happened a few times, hasn't it?
There was some inklings in episode 4 that was slowly going that way, and then lasted into episode 6, didn't it, where they turned on him.
Yeah. I didn't get that in '84 because I just thought he was going to be the baddie and going to rule the roost. So yeah.
I liked it when he was eavesdropping on his henchman and the globe thing.
Oh, I know. That's very Big Brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before
That's
Big
horrible,
Brother,
that. Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, years before that nonsense started. But that's a really spooky one. That. Hello, Legion of James. Nice to see you. I forgot just how much was packed into this series. It really is wonderful being able to fully appreciate it all these years later with adult and slightly jaded eyes. It's one to share with the niece and nephew, totally. And when you do, let us know what they think about it. I'm very interested to see what the kids think of this because they are finding this. And I'd love to think as well, guys, that they're sitting down on a Saturday night at the, 6:40, 7 o'clock time to watch the repeats and getting into it over Christmas. Derek Hart, nice to see you. I can't remember if Box of Delights was on a Wednesday after news round or Sunday afternoons. It was on the Wednesday then because it was after news round. It was the one that rounded it all off before the news came on, the boring news. You going to say something, Judge?
Did it get a repeat on a Sunday though? Because thinking back, I think it's high. I do remember watching it when it was broadcast, but it's highly likely I would have been watching TV on a Wednesday highly unlikely, sorry. I would have been watching TV on a Wednesday afternoon. So did it get a second screening on a Sunday?
I don't recall it having that. And back in the day, I don't recall the BBC doing repeats for children's television like this.
Did they ever do an Omnibus?
No,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I don't think so. It might have done, and I missed it. But I remember tuning in every week.
Yeah, Because I clearly remember making a point of watching it because it was Patrick Troughton.
Oh, yeah.
You know, thinking back, I just think it would be so unlikely I would have been able to sit down and watch a TV program on a Wednesday afternoon. It's, you know, a Sunday would make sense for me.
It definitely wasn't Sunday. It was
Okay.
it was after school. I wouldn't have been able to watch it if it was a Sunday, but it was definitely after school. And I also remember us talking about it at school as well, because actually, considering that we were all 14, this caught an awful lot of us. We were all, have you seen this thing on telly? Yes, we have. Yeah. What do you think about that? And just absolutely fantastic. So no, I think if you are a boxer, come and tell us. Give us the facts in the chat.
Was it repeated the following Christmas?
Do you know what? I don't think it was.
Right.
I really don't think it was. I mean, you know, we're dealing with the BBC back in the day. They didn't do things like that. Once it was on, it was on.
Mm.
You know, it took 8 years for it to come out on VHS.
Wow. Was it 95 it came out?
It was very late in the day. And I think it might have been around about that time, definitely, because I remember getting it from Woolies for $9.99 as part of the BBC Children's Classics, you know, that range they were doing. But there you go there. But yes, so here we are. We're talking about the Box of Delights here on Who's Views tonight. It's nice to see you. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you are not new to the channel, you've already subscribed, please just check to make sure you're still subscribed. That would be fantastic. Come into the chat and tell us all about your memories of the Box of Delights, or if you've watched it specifically to join us here with it, what do you think about it? What were your standout scenes? Fantasy, absolutely fantastic. We've talked about Kay. We need to talk about his friends. I love these kids. I mean, they are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant, and I love these young actors here who were all at normal school, by the way, when they got this job. They weren't at stage school or anything like that. They were at school. They were at comprehensives. They got the call, you're going to be in it, and then they had to get the haircut into old styles. And yeah, they're still around today and talking about the show. That you can see them on the documentary on the Blu Ray. Yeah, but isn't she fabulous, the little one there who gets into trouble, the gunslinger? It's Maria, isn't it?
Yeah,
she's great. Yeah,
she's the strongest out of the four of them. No disrespect to them, but I think she's the one that really goes for this. And I love the way when she's faced with the baddies, she's no nonsense, isn't she? She's absolutely British. That's no other words I can say for her.
I quite like the other boy, and I've forgotten his character's name. He was quite good as well. Quite liked him.
Oh yeah, that is Peter.
Peter, yeah, he was really good.
The sausage roll kid.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it works really well though. I think they were quite nicely cast. You know, the bit we were talking about where they're on the boat and they're all going for that particular one. Then the bit where they realise in that scene there that, you know, their sister had been cobbled by the people in the flying car. I just think it's so charming. Again, it's just all, we're in an adventure. I love it. You know? Yeah.
What I liked about that scene where she's having the meal with, I think it was lamb chops she was eating or something. She's telling the story, and we had a flashback of her, from her point of view, what was going on.
Yes.
I did like after she had her lamb chops, she said, "What's for dessert?" That was my favourite line.
It is weird though that she's been gone for 2 or 3 days, and they were, she can look after herself. Really can look after herself. And she does, but I just think that's a bit odd. Can you imagine the panic if that happened today?
Yeah,
definitely.
Here we go from Pete for you, George. George, it was repeated 2 years later in 1986 on Sundays in December.
That might have been where I saw it then, and not the original broadcast.
Thanks, Pete. There you go. Pete knows about that. So 1986, 2 years later. So yeah, it did get a repeat. It should have been on every year, as far as I'm concerned, Pete, as well, because it was the BBC at its best doing a Christmas thing. You know, I don't know. Fabulous. Squabbled, not cobbled. Exactly, says from Pete Dencat. Hello, nice to see you. Squabbled. I love all these things. Well, if this isn't the purple pim. All these little sayings here, you know, absolutely fantastic. Was Devon Stanfield, says Graham, in Chucky also? Yes, he was.
There was a couple of moments when they said "oh poo," which was sound interesting. They said that instead of "OSHIT," you know, which is interesting. You know,
oh poo,
oh poo,
poo. But yes, Devon Stanfield was in Chucky, and it was Chucky was part of the Journey to Box of Delights. So there's another classic there, isn't it? Goodness me. What's this? I can't remember. Yeah, thank you for your chat. Keep them all coming here. Keep them all coming. Yes, so I love these kids as well. It's a shame that Peter gets at the end of the show. All Pete gets to do is go, help, help. It's quite a twist on things, really. And he's standing on a box about to get drowned. Help, let me out of this thing. Quite charming, though, still, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Paul Rose is with us, guys, saying, hi, JT and gang. I haven't seen this since it aired, so can remember very little, just dropping in to say hi. Well, that's nice. Thank you, Paul. Nice to see you. Can't remember very little about it. What about these guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite villainous, are they, though, really? You know, they're not really the big bad. Looking back, he's just like, hang on. They're not
the one in the middle, was that one of Robert Stevens' sons or not? Because he's the same son name.
It's Jonathan Stevens. I'm not quite sure. It could possibly be Jonathan Stevens playing Chubby Joe.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Larder, who was playing Foxy Face Charles.
They were like Lord and Hardy, weren't they, a little bit?
A little bit,
that.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And the actors actually say that's what they worked out between them, because one was tall and very thin and the other was short and very quite large at the time. So they went for that sort of
double act, yeah.
But yeah, the twist with the gang. I mean, they're not baddie. I mean, he is. Abner is. He's magical and bad. But this lot are all sort of, they're quite frightened of him, as it turns out, aren't they? Because of all his powers.
Yeah.
I think that's quite charming, actually, when you put that across. I loved all that, though, and you know.
Well, that bit where he suspects Joe of kind of treason, effectively, and he starts to interrogate him. That's quite scary. That moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Lots of surprises with them all as well. The bit where Chubby Joe is actually faced with this fella. Again, I think this is the bit where they suddenly realize, it's as though they didn't realize that Abner was magical and it was dark magic he was using. Because this fella comes along and it's a bit of a surprise, isn't it, for Joe? But I just love the way that Joe actually gets his wits about him first and he says, who's going to win the Cheltenham? And he gets the answer. I hope you earned a fortune, quite frankly. I love that scene, though. But it's quite sad. You just think, who's this character now? Again, it's the whole Box of Delights thing, isn't it? All these lovely characters and different beings.
And spoiler coming up now. It's lovely that Troughton frees him as well, which is nice.
Oh, isn't it?
Nice. Yeah.
And because when they do catch up again with Cole later on, he's tired, he's worn out, but he's still a wizard. He's still magical. So what happens is that he releases the waterfall boy. So he goes from this to this, and it's a lovely scene.
Yeah.
And Abner can't hurt him anymore, and he can't punish him anymore. And the glee from the actor, and the actor is what's his name? Oh, Jason Kemp. And I love the fact that I'm free. Off he goes to do whatever he is or wherever he's come from. I love it. It's just nice, isn't it? Especially on Christmas Eve when you're watching it for the first time, everybody. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, he got away. Well done, him. Yeah, so this is the Box of Delights, everybody. What an absolute joy it is. Don't forget the desert island with our big un, says Paul Richards.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's
Philip
playing
Locke.
the...
Yeah.
Philip Locke, yes.
Philip
Who
Locke.
I know as a minor league Bond villain in Thunderball.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that because I always think of Big Un. You know,
He ends up getting harpooned to a palm tree.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
I thought it was a bizarre scene was the barbecue. I thought he's barbecuing meat and his bananas.
Yeah, and he's just playing it brilliantly though because he's utterly insane. There he is talking to himself, actually believing that himself is there. And I quite like that whole scene that he's doing there. But the way he turned on Kay again at the time, I found that quite scary. You know, why was Kay the threat? You know, what was it about that? Why had he gone back to that past there? What, you know, because in the context, as you'll know, people, if you've seen this, the box doesn't allow you to go in the past and return. So what Kay has to do is send an image of himself. Herne the Hunter sends an image of himself. Quite clever again. But it's all these fantastical, even elements of sci-fi elements that we're all used to because we've come from Doctor Who into this, you know. But I just thought, wow, what a performance that is. He's really, that bit with the lightning and stuff.
Yeah.
He's loving
It looked Greek myth, didn't it? The way he'd done it, like something of Clash of the Titans type thing. The way he was doing it, the effects.
Yeah. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Just a spoiler warning, everybody. We're going to be talking about the ending in a minute, so get ready. For that's it. Let's have a look. Oh, Michael is saying to us about the two there. They look like something from Father Ted. So he's talking about Chubby Joe and Foxy Face Charles.
Yeah.
It is quite funny that they're all dressed as vicars and stuff, though, isn't it? Really,
Well, it's interesting making them sinister vicars is an interesting choice. I suppose it was the 30s. I don't know, but the position of authority, aren't they? They're like the police. It's people who you have faith in, isn't it? No pun intended. You know.
Yeah, exactly. But
you trust these people, the police, the church, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
And in those days,
we did. Yeah,
bit of controversy now. We did, didn't we? Yeah, we respected those people. Not so much in this modern day, allegedly, or point of view. But yeah, in those days we did. So to have them certainly turn out bad. I mean, Doctor Who used to do it all the time. He'd turn around and the policeman's face would fall off, you know.
Yeah.
Wonderful things like that. That character reminds me of Ariel from The Tempest, says Paul Richards. It is a bit of a Shakespearean type of thing there. Yeah, you got that going. Yeah. I feel sorry for poor old Cole Hawlings, says Paul Stenford. He's trundling through deep snow and then he gets a bag shoved over him before being kidnapped. Yeah, it was a bit, bless him. God, I don't know. What else we got here from everybody? Spoilers are a myth, says the Peter Venkman fan site who's joined us. Nice to see you, lovely. Hope you are well. Good to see you. Kirsty is actually putting out a spoiler warning. Thanks for that, Kirst. Yep. And Pete Harrington is saying what you guys were saying. Ian was saying, the Master and the Demons. There were a few of us actually talking about Robert Stevens here, asking us, do you think he would have made... Oh, thank you to Mark Milford, by the way, who's giving us a super chat there. Box of Delights, Doctor Who, Blake 7, shaped your generation's values. And that's the one from earlier. Sorry, it's just repeated on my thing here. We've got a lot of you asking at the panel, do they think Robert Stevens would have made a good Master in Doctor Who?
Well, I'm kind of with you. I think he'd make a better Doctor than the Master. But he's a great actor who can play any part. I don't. Was he any of the early Harry Potters, or he died by that point?
He's gone by that point.
Right,
he would have suited Harry
Potter.
Potter.
He would have been in that definitely, even though his ex was in that. But I think he's a great actor, and I would recommend to watch out for The Private Lives of Sherlock Holmes. Great film. He plays Holmes in that with Colin Blakely. Fantastic film, and. The Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. He plays a blind detective in that, and he's superb. So I recommend that definitely.
I want to say thanks to Pete, Den, Cat. Robin Stevens only agreed to be in it if they used the theme tune from the original radio play. I'm a nerd. Suit me. That's fine. Yeah. So and it was also Paul Stone, the producer, as well, wasn't it, Pete? That said, look, you've got to use that theme tune. I mean, what do you two think about the fact that I've said I think Robert Stevens would have made a superb Doctor. And that was, a wonderful. I think he's one of those actors again that we were robbed because he never got to play the Doctor. But a lot of you are saying he would have been a good Master. Is that simply because, do you think, guys, that he was playing a baddie in this? Because I would have liked to have seen how he would have played the Doctor. George, Lex, what do you think?
You first, George.
Yeah, I think he could have done either, actually.
Yeah.
In the same way, huge. In the same way that. The Doctor that got away for me was Ron Moody. But, if Ron Moody got it, we never would have had John Pertwee.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I can see the argument for both. You could have done a really good twist where, he turned out to be the Master impersonating the Doctor or something.
Yeah.
In that way, he sort of got a crack at both roles.
Maybe. What about you, Lex?
I think depending on the era, it would have been with the era he was in then in the 80s. I think it would have worked as him being the Master. But moving into the late 80s, he would have been better as the Doctor.
I think he would have been a stronger Doctor as Tom Baker if he had the chance. Definitely.
I think there's a certain similarity when it comes to characterization between Tom and Robert.
Yeah.
Possibly even eccentricity, that beautiful thing that we allowed to have.
Yeah. They're both very commanding characters.
Yes. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And believable in what they do when it comes to a performance.
And have real gravitas as well, which is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I wonder how much of that £1 million budget went on Robert Stevenson's fee, because he was quite a coup.
Oh, totally,
He didn't often lower himself to appear on television, let alone without denigrating it in any way, children's television.
Yeah.
Oh, as I said at the top of the show, though, it's because he loved this from his own childhood. And Patricia Quinn on the thing saying he would have paid the BBC to do this. It just shows you, doesn't it, how when you are a fan of something, you're a fan of something. And he knew how he was going to play Abner. I love that. He knew as soon as he was going to get the role, bang.
Well,
he already got the role as well, according to the documentary. It was when he was doing the RSC's panto and he was playing the Dame. There's a great photo of him in the documentary, all dragged up as the Dame. Superb. Fabulous, absolutely wonderful. Go on, what were you saying?
I was going to ask you, or anyone in the chat might know this, who played Abner in the radio production? Would be interesting to know who that was.
I know, back in the day, the original one.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to know. Here's another nice shot as well.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's good.
During the war. Yeah.
Gives a classic look, doesn't it? That picture.
Yeah,
it's lovely. Yeah.
But waiting for a cue there, obviously. And this is actually it. So this is it now. Spoilers alert, everyone. We are now going to talk about the end of this, the Box of Delights. Well. I remember in '84 going, what? It just it just didn't seem. Well, it still gets me. I now look at this and just think, right, I've come up with this whole continuity, guys, of what happens. So he leaves the church, right? And I reckon to myself, this is actually a discussion point with all the proper Box of Delights fans. And it has been for all these years and still continues to be. But I think he has some adventures with it. Then he returns the box to Cole, and Cole goes, right, I've got to reset this now. I don't know. What did you guys, first time you've seen it, what did you guys make of this ending?
Well, the first time I saw it, I had to realise in context, we hadn't had Bobby come out the shower at this point in television history, so it wasn't so much a cliche at that point as it is now. And having discussed it with you guys, it does make sense that the dream, being a kind of dream sequencey type thing, makes the animation work quite well in that context for me. So that explains a lot. So that works quite well. But I did feel a bit disappointed when that happened at the end, though, a little bit, to be honest.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
I think the explaining it all as his dream on the train worked really well, and blended all the elements together. That was absolutely fine. But to me, and I don't know if it's in the book or not, and I don't know if I'm deviating from it, what it was longing for me was the last shot as the camera tracked past the platform was for Patrick Troughton to be standing there with his dog.
Yeah.
And the boy just going and shaking his head,
and then Troughton winks into camera like that. And that's it.
Not quite as far as that, but something like that. It was a dream, but it could be real.
Yeah, that would be a nice touch. Yeah.
What about you, Lex?
I think there's two theories on this. I think it's either a dream, or you got a little hint with the two vicars sitting there that they know him at the end. Is it to do with time travel? That he relives that day again?
So you're going with GT's theory, effectively, aren't you?
Well, it says you shouldn't go back into the past. And if Cole has had something to do with sending him back in the past to save his future timeline or something like that, I do like the idea he's had a few adventures in between, because there is a trilogy of these things.
Where does Terence Dix when you need him? That's all I'm saying.
I know. We've got a couple of answers to your question here, Paul. Well, Stephen Braddock and Paul Stenterford both telling us that Donald Sinden played Abner on the radio.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I don't know if that would have been the original version, though, guys. Right. Was that the original one from that certainly Mr. Stevens would have listened to?
Do copies of them still exist?
Oh,
the radio broadcasts.
I don't know. Sure, if that was a race, a one at, I don't know. When would Donald Sinden have done that? Do you know, guys?
Yeah, it depends.
He could have done it in the 30s as a child.
Yeah.
I remember hearing.
Well, he said he played Abner.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Sorry,
it depends when, because obviously the book written in 1935, so it depends when they did it on the radio. It could be the 50s.
Well,
So
they did it. I think they did it around about that because Robert Stevenson would have been
of course,
a kid. He loved it when he was a kid. So I don't know. George is bang on, says Paul Richards. It needed Patrick Troughton to appear at the end. Well said.
Yeah.
I'm sort of glad he wasn't there because I want to know where he's gone. Where is he? Where's the wizard? If you're
gone for another adventure or somewhere.
He's off to Spain. So
Stephen's saying it disappointed me as a young adult, but now I think it works really well as a magical dream. Or was it because the clergymen were on the platform and time has been reset? I've always gone with the reset thing and just erasing his memory and taking him back in time. But they somehow know that time's been reset. I love the fact that you can get this. This is honestly
it's those pesky Time Lords again, isn't it? That's what's going on.
Legion of James's theory. I always thought he went back in time, therefore it reset his timeline. So it did all happen, but then it didn't because of reset. The time travel rule mentioned in the story. Yes, if you go back, you can't get through. I think it's got something to do with Patrick Troughton's character. I really do. If I may, actually, I'd like to read you a part from the end of the book, if you don't mind, because I saw the TV show before I read the book. As I say, I bought this the year after. And I was always wondering, is that how the book ended? So I didn't read to the end like some people would. I went right through the book and then at the end I went, oh, okay, because this is it here. Now that the west doors were open, Kay could hear that the cathedral bells were ringing. He stayed there listening to them for a moment or two. Old Cole beside him saying, a happy sight, a blessed sight, Master Harker. All these coming here to sing. Arnold of Tody went up the nave to stare at the decorations, seemingly in a trance of pleasure at being back in Anno Domini. Didn't get that in the TV show. Just 2 more minutes to go, Master Harker, old Cole said. There came the sound of many men marching to a drum tap. A clear voice called an order, and with a clink of metal and grunt of leather, the band of the famous Tatshire Regiment, the Tatshire Toms, moved into position inside the church. Then crash came the salute of cannon in the barrack square for the stroke of midnight. Organ and brass band struck up, full strength. The vestry door curtains fell back to each side, and out came the great cathedral crosses and blessed banners with all the cathedral choir and clergy, voices lifted aloft in "O come all ye faithful." By this time, the triforium and as well as every space in the cathedral were packed with faces. All there sang as they never had sung. The singing shook the whole building. Somehow it seemed to Kay that it was shaking the cathedral to pieces. Kay himself was being shaken to pieces. His own head was surely coming off, still singing through the cathedral roof. In fact, the cathedral was not there, nor any of the glorious company. No, he was in a railway carriage on a bitterly cold day. The train was stopped. He was at Condicott Station with the pocketful money, just home for the holidays, and Caroline Louisa was waking him. Why, Kay, she was saying, wake up, wake up. You have been sound asleep. Welcome home for the holidays. Have you had a nice dream? Yes, he said. I have. So, from John Masefield himself. I feel like going to buy the other 2 books now. The other says, what else he got up to? But there you go. What you know, it is what it is, isn't it?
Is Cole's character a once only character, or is he in the other books?
Can I just say to John Mason very quickly, no, they haven't. Come back in a few minutes. No, the spoilers are still there. I don't know because I have never read the other books.
Well, just curious.
Never read them. Yeah, never read them. What's this from Legion James? New sideline for Who's Views audio books target Doctor Who, but copyright might be an issue. Possibly. But we look at some of the audios on the Sound of Who's It playlist, everybody. So go and have a look at that. We've got more coming up for you in a wee while as well. Ariel is saying to us, the BBC always tries to be faithful to the text, more so than other adapters. Oh, and here we go. It was Donald Sutherland in 96, and Robert Farquharson was the original Abbott in 43. Oh. Well, thank you, Stephen. There you go. I'm not aware of that actor. I don't know if you guys are.
No.
But it obviously made a huge impression on Robert. You know, Robert Stevens remembered him and loved him and wanted the part.
It was probably junked, George, as well, so it probably doesn't exist.
We've got another one here as well from Paul Stenterford. Felix Felton played Abner Brown in the 1966 version of the Box of Delights radio play. I mean, there are so many versions of this that were done for radio. I've tried to listen to a couple of them, but I've been spoilt by the TV version. That was my version. So I've tried to listen to the audios, Lex, and I just can't get into them as much.
There was an audio adventure for the 30th anniversary. Derek Jeppesby was playing Patrick Troughton's character for the 30th anniversary on Audio Adventure.
Yeah.
Was that through Big Finish, Lex? Was it?
I think it was from Big Finish,
Yeah. Box of Delights, says Paul Richards, goes straight into the adventure and doesn't concern itself with soap plots. I miss this type of drama. Yeah. I mean, that ending as well. I love the fact that it's caused a lot of discussion for years and years and years. It continues to cause lots of discussion, as we just looked at here. But it's down to yourself, isn't it? What you want it to be, really. I quite like it. I quite like the fact it's open like that.
It's your own ending, isn't it? You can think about what the ending's going to be.
Yeah,
it's an open ending, isn't it? So
it's open to interpretation, isn't it? A little bit. That's the thing. Yeah.
How do you look at it, George?
As I said, to me, it was. I took it at face value that it was, he was waking from a dream, which blended all the elements together. And the two clergymen on the platform might have hinted that it could have been more than a dream. I was reminded, I don't know if you know, an absolutely wonderful film from the Ealing Studios from 1945 called Dead of Night. It's a fantastic film. It's a portmanteau film of ghosts and supernatural stories. This guy goes to visit a house in the country for the weekend, and all the people there tell each other stories. But at the end of the film, he wakes up from a dream. And then he gets a phone call inviting him to a house in the country for the weekend. And the closing shot of the film is the opening shot of the film of him driving up the country lane to this house.
So it's like a premonition.
So I was wondering if, maybe there was that in it as well.
Oh,
but
yes.
Me,
that would work.
But as I said before, to me, the camera just should have tracked past, and that, Patrick Troughton should have been standing there.
Yeah. That would work too. That would work. There we go. So yes, and Pete Dencat saying to us, the book had some re-editing for the school book version. It wasn't until recently that it was released in the original text. Did it really?
Oh,
it's ridiculous, isn't it? That's absolutely ridiculous. Well, listen, everybody. Thank you for joining for this. This was us having a look at the Box of Delights in its 40th anniversary year. You can get it now if you're in the UK and you have access to the BBC services. You can watch it on the BBC iPlayer. You can also buy the 40th anniversary edition Blu Ray from BBC Studios. It's out now. I do recommend it. It's for me essential viewing every Christmas. So you guys that have been introduced to this, do you understand why this is Christmassy? Did you love it?
So you can go first, George.
I'd say, it's so obviously based around Christmas, and Christmas is an integral part of the story. I mean, if it was set at any other time of the year, I don't think it would have half the effect that it does. No. So yes, it's Christmas with the big C.
I'm going to ask you, at this point, if you're new to the show, when we're doing a review, we would normally give the show that we're looking at a mark out of 10. Yeah. I'm going to do it in this particular one as well. We do it for our Hammer Horrors and our Carry On, so we'll do it on this one as well. So, George, what would you give this out of 10?
Okay. I was amazed watching it after best part of 40 years, if I did watch it on the Sunday repeat, how well it stood up and how good a lot of the elements were. I couldn't help, as I said earlier, thinking, it was just screaming to be shot on film and not on videotape. Yeah. Which again would have given it so much more texture and layers. The standout for me, actually, even though I completely forgot that she was in it, was Patricia Quinn. If you're familiar with a film that she did called Shock Treatment, which is the much lesser known sequel to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. That was good.
Pat Quinn in it. She's only got to stand in the background and she steals it from everybody.
Totally.
And she's like this. She has the same presence in Box of Delights as she does in Shock Treatment for me, that she's only got to be on screen and, everybody else might as well pack up and go home. So, the absolutely like Patrick Troughton, absolutely wonderful. And what a legacy to such a great actor that, this is being celebrated 40 years on.
Yeah.
One element, and I'm afraid I'm going to disagree with the rest of the panel here, that I thought let it down a bit and could have been worked on a bit more, and I did touch on this earlier, was the incidental music. The main theme worked very well, but I found the the actual score for the episodes to be very nondescript. And as I said earlier, if only somebody like Dudley Simpson was given this to do, again, it would have added so much more to it. But I don't think, like you, JT, I would watch it religiously on a regular basis, but I'd certainly go back to it and watch it again and enjoy it just as much another time through. So it's a very good 8 out of 10 for me.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Before I come to you guys, Stephen Braddock is telling you guys 1943, 1948, and the 1955 versions all junked, but the 1966 version still exists. What a shame.
Wow. Yeah.
What a shame. Because that would be
BBC.
Yeah, I mean that would be a box of delights in itself, marketing wise, wouldn't it? To have all the various versions, because the box of delights fans would snap all that up, because there are millions of them, and they're just like us as Doctor Who fans. They know every bit about it. They love it. They talk about it all the time. What a great fandom. You can find them on some of them on the Box of Delights Appreciation Society Facebook page. There's a nice little mention to them. Graham, for you, is it worth me upgrading my original DVD? Yes, it absolutely is, Graham. I've got I know Lex is the same. I've got the DVD and I've got the Blu Ray. Yes, it absolutely is. It gets the extra documentary on this one as well, which is just brilliant. So yes, I would say, Graham, go and get that. Right, I'm going to go to Lex. What would you give the Box of Delights out of 10, please?
Well, it's an excellent story of friendship, Christmas themed, and family filled fun adventure. 10 out of 10.
Oh, well done, Lex. Brilliant. And John Mason, yes, you can come back, love. Come back in. Come back in. Or I feel like Barry Singleton when she used to send the kids out when she was making somebody's present. Yes, you can come back in now, folks. All right, then, Paul, what are you going to give the Box of Delights out of 10?
I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching it for the first time. I wish I'd seen it when I was your age, JT, because I think I had more appreciation of it being younger, I think. And that's one of my sort of bugbears about it a little bit. I wish I'd seen it when I was younger. I did enjoy it. I did think I was disappointed. I, like George, expected Trout to be in all 6 episodes. And that's one thing that loses a couple of points for me, because he's not in it as much as he could be, which is a real shame, because he's brilliant in this. But for me, Robert Stevens steals the bits that Troughton's not in. So I think there's some great bits in it, some great imaginative ways of the effects, things like that. But I wasn't as enamored as I thought it would be. It's good, but I'm going to get a good 7 out of 10.
Oh, fabulous.
One other thing I was going to mention before, which I don't think works quite well, their attempt, and this was probably the material they had to work with, because they had to break it into 6 episodes, was their attempt at cliffhangers didn't really work.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Yeah.
It's like, you're not leaving the audience on a hook there to come back next week.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. I never noticed, actually, to be honest. I'm obviously going to get this a 10 because I loved it in '84 and it's been around all that time for me. I absolutely adore it, and I can't wait to watch it every Christmas. And it's been an absolute treat this year, in its 40th anniversary year, to watch it on this format and to get this. That'll save the DVD copy from now, because I'm sure I'm wearing it out. So I'm going to give it a 10. Let's see what the Who viewers were giving this. Derek Hart was saying 10. Peter Harrington is giving it a 10. It's part of me for Christmas, absolutely. And the Legion of James is also giving it a 10 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Paul Richards, 10 out of 10. Thank you for that, Paul. John Mason is back in the room with us now and giving it an 8 out of 10. Fabulous. What else we got? Anybody else? Oh yes, Stephen Braddock. It's magical, timeless, enduring Christmas classic, a standout stellar acting cast including Patrick Troughton and Devon Stanfield and Robert Stevens and Patricia Quinn. 10 out of 10. A splendiferous Christmas. Absolutely splendiferous. Paul Stenterford is also saying this is such an enchanting, well-realized and fantastic production. A charming Christmas tale with a very strong cast. A firm 9 out of 10. And Julianne is saying 9 out of 10. Proper Christmas season telly for all the family. And as we said at the beginning with our announcement, they don't make them like this anymore. And it's probably such a shame. More the pity that they don't. Graham is also saying it's a perfect Christmas watch. 10 out of 10. Great marks, everybody. Any more for any more in there, people? Otherwise, we'll wind up. But thank you so much for this. 9 out of 10 from Problem Being is totally groundbreaking. That was the thing about it. It was. I have to tell you at this point as well, it won 3 BAFTAs. It was nominated for 5. It won 3. It also won the Royal Television Society Award, which is quite an achievement. Now, this is a children's television show on BBC.
Yeah.
They didn't really get a look in. I don't think they still do, to be quite honest. I don't know what they're like these days, but this was hailed such a success. It won 3 BAFTAs. How many BAFTAs did Doctor Who win back in the day? It was robbed all the time, wasn't it? And yeah, here comes the Box of Delights.
Was it made by the children's department or drama department?
I think it was the children's department that made it, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But they drafted in a lot of drama people to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it was the in-house pool, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, it was what became Children's BBC just a short time later. Robin Calvert is saying to us, 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I watched it all last weekend and I loved it. It made me want to watch other vintage BBC serials. Oh, that's great, because there's plenty of them, I tell you. See if you can find the 1970s version of The Phoenix and the Carpet. Have a look at that.
It's on the Tube of You, I'm sure it is.
Probably is.
Everything's on there.
You used to be able to get it on a DVD, but I'm sure with the success of this, I'm sure there might be some other tidies up coming out on Blu Ray soon, actually, from the BBC. Fingers crossed. Theodore, hello, Theodore Benton. I will need to re-watch this, as I sort of remember the older version of this. I always got it mixed up with Tom's Secret Garden. In my memory, the Blu Ray looks good. Looking forward to Christmas watching. Absolutely. Great. What else we got there? Yes, okay, fantastic. I'm going to call it there for everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is one of our little Christmas shows for our Christmas season here in 2024. 40 years of the Box of Delights. Incredible. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. It's something different for us, isn't it, guys? Because it's something cheery at this time of year as well. So thank you to everybody that's joined us. Thank you to Garbage and to Kirsty and to Probably for being in the chat, making sure everybody's all right as well. Great conversation from everyone. To Paul, to George, to Lex, and of course the third Doctor. And thank you for joining me for this little twist on what we do here in reviews. We'll be back very soon here on Who's Views. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're still subscribed. Ring that bell to get notifications of shows that are coming up for you. Got a lot to talk about in headlines this Sunday as well. Ooh, yes, we have. So make sure you're here on the channel, 8 o'clock live Sunday night, where Paul, Third Doctor Ian, and I are going to be looking at all those latest news, tasty news items. Can't wait for it. Until we see you again on Who's Views Reviews, take care. We'll see you again soon. Ciao, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.